That's all right. That's all right. Let's throw it over Fee. You want to do the pitch this week?
Why, yes. As I am here.
Are you?
You are
Are
here?
you?
Are
Are you really here?
I froze for a
think
second,
he's
so I was
the
just waiting it
ghost,
out.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I was just waiting it out. I was waiting out the lag. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here and
I
let
thought you were
it be.
having an existential crisis.
That's literally me 24/7. That's not. We don't even question that at this. Yeah. So, pitch is from Aubrey Crocker. Thank you for sending off this pitch to us, host of Queer Tea and Poetry podcast at Queer Tea Poetry on Instagram. All right. If you're into post-apocalyptic stories, here, this is how this is going, guys. Stories, then this could be the one for you. The story is told from a third-person point of view where you follow many characters through rundown cities and overgrown landscapes, maneuvering your way through the puzzles and of zombie-like creatures called clickers. The plot, however, is centered around a father-daughter relationship that grows into something worth fighting for. But how far will you go for it? The second game focuses on the theme of revenge in a world where so much humanity has already been taken. You get to play as multiple characters and see how their storylines intersect in the worst ways. The voice acting and motion capture technology immerses the player, and it almost feels like you're watching a movie. I absolutely love the character development, the depth of the world, and the reality of the themes of grief, love, and revenge. Also, it's all gay. That's why I would recommend people play The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2.
I love the way that was like delivered because you could not know what series that was until you got to the clickers, and I loved how that went down.
I was like, what is this? This reminds me of Last of Us Part 1 and 2. What is this? And then I read at the very bottom, it said, I recommend play Last of Us. I'm like, oh shit, this is the Last of Us Part 1 and 2.
I love it.
Well, that's my bad, because I cut out the first sentence when I copied it into the doc.
I personally,
yes.
going
like, is
forward,
this a pitch for a video game, because this sounds like Last of Us. And
Going
I'm like,
forward,
oh, it's just Last of Us.
Going forward, I think that's how we got to do it, because I was in suspense because even though I knew what it was, because I actually read ahead of time, but at the same time, as you were reading, I'm like, you could be no one and not know what this is until the very end, which I loved. So we should definitely keep trying to do that in the future.
Yeah, so shout out to Aubrey. They have an awesome podcast about tea and poetry, and it's very gay. We love to see it. And so they recommended The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. Am I the only one who has not played Last of Us here?
Yes.
Fee has not?
Fee.
You played the first one, haven't you?
I played a small portion of it, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you at least played the first one.
Got it.
Okay.
Not completely through. I had it spoiled for me.
Oh, well, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, fuck the spoilers. I'm gonna send you 20 copies of The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 through Amazon.
20?
20.
Okay.
That's
I look forward to my
How much is it
postman
on sale
being
right
very
now?
confused why I have a large box full of video games. You know what? I will give him.
I would like to know why he
I will
knows
be
about
like,
the video
you know
games
what?
in your box. That's what I want to know. Well, how does he know
I
what's
don't
going
know
on?
because it's probably gonna rattle around. It'd probably sound like some discs moving around or like things moving around.
Put
I'd
some.
just be like, "Hey, do you want something out of this box?" And you'd be like, "Excuse me, miss," and I'll be like, "Don't worry about
He
it."
would be
And
like,
I'd
"I'm
take out
married. Leave
my
me
knife.
alone."
I take out my knife and then I cut it open and then give him The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 because obviously I need to make it suspenseful, just like this pitch.
Jesus
Wow, that took a
Christ.
weird turn.
Wow.
That
All
took a
right.
I thought you were
weird turn.
propositioning.
Catch it.
I thought you were
You didn't even catch
proposition.
it.
Alright. I thought you were propositioning the mailman. I was scared.
No!
Or if he's just going around giving people copies of The Last of Us Part 1. Hey,
Well, apparently I'm getting 20 copies of each, so I have to give it out to somebody.
she's the Santa
$9.99.
Claus of The Last of Us Part 1.
This is not where I thought this was gonna go.
Me neither. So
I
on
didn't think
that,
we were gonna talk about people's
I know
boxes.
that Harv, Mario, and Frank, you have all played Last of Us Part 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
And so my question for you, I will not play Last of Us Part 2. When it came out, I had a very good friend say, hey, there's some pretty awful stuff with the trans character in this. Like, be careful, because I am very sensitive to trans representation in media. I get very deeply emotionally affected by it. It's not a good thing for me. And when Last of Us Part 2 came out, I did a lot of reading and analyzing on the specific character and how they were portrayed so that I could talk eloquently on the topic. And I just, that's not for me. And I know that. But my question for you all is it worth it to play Last of Us Part 1 as it is right now if I have no plans of playing Last of Us Part 2?
Yes. Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. 1000%.
1,000,000%.
It honestly might be one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite game of all time, to be completely honest, because it does so much with so little in terms of what they were able to accomplish in the first game, and then I think they just expand upon it a little bit further in the second game. Now, I love the story of Joe and Ellie. At the same time, I can understand the ramifications that it's a dark story. It's a dark story throughout from the beginning. So even when you get to 2, and yes, there are some elements that are rough and are jagged, but that is also what they've set up in this world to begin with. And I think that is if you're going for that, then you're in for the ride. Now, if you just play the first one, because there's some stuff in there that's also pretty tragic. I mean, there's some child bride stuff happening in the middle of the game. So it's like, it's a dark, dark world in the same way as like The Walking Dead accomplished so early on in the comic book specifically. So I would say, yeah, if you are interested in these human and dark and wonderful stories, as well as these hateful stories, because that's a lot of that in this series, I still think that it's an experience to be had, and I think it's more of an experience if you actually play it than reading or watching someone else do it. Because I think there's a difference, because you're actively doing it. You're actively experiencing it. And that's why I think that's what makes Last of Us special, as opposed to it being a movie, in my opinion.
I just to piggyback off of what Mario's saying here too, it's a very gritty, unapologetic world in the series. Things will be said between characters that like will not fly today or any other day. But it's based on a world where there are no rules. The rule is just stay alive any way you can. And it's going to make you ask moral questions like, if I was in this situation, would I do some of the same things that some of these characters would do? I know a lot of people like to rag on some of the choices made in the first and second games. But it's just, it's not necessarily supposed to mimic what you would do as a person. It's to mimic what this person would do in this world, or what these people would do in this world. And it's a world that is brutal and will bring you down to the lowest point as they possibly can. But in a way, that is its charm.
I do also want to say the game is hella gay. In terms of Ellie and her development over the course of the 2 games and the DLC. There's actually a DLC that I think, Sly, you could just play the DLC and you'll get everything that you probably would want. You'll get a story that is both beautiful and tragic, but also an exploration of what it means to discover yourself in the Left Behind DLC, which takes place in the middle of the Last of Us game. Overall, and then obviously there's actually a lot more of that theme in 2. And that's why I think it either hits so hard for certain people in both negative and positive ways because it tackles those issues and I think in an interesting way, especially in a mainstream game that not like Halo Chief is not going to come out as a character that is, you know, the typical gay character, right? It's not Marcus Phoenix, but Ellie as this character in a mainstream game, I think is wonderful for the series.
One thing I'll say about this is like, so one thing I love about video games is character development, right? It is probably on the top for me when it comes to a video game, and how the world around them shapes how they develop these characters is probably one of the best I've seen in a video game. Just like the conversations they have, the world, how the world has affected them, and how they perceive the world, and how everything is just, everybody is like, it's a very dark take on everybody's like personality and stuff like that. So, but there is like that kind of levity, right? You get those kind of like those moments of levity when the two of them are together and there's just them. That's it. Right. Once you get through probably about halfway through the game, you start seeing like these two really care about each other and they really want to be together, and they have this father-daughter relationship. And that's what makes this game so beautiful, is like you can have these dark moments, you can see that these people are jaded, but you have those little moments underneath this, like a little cracks in the skin of saying like, oh, these people are actually like, they're good people. At some of the times they're good people.
Glimpses of humanity.
Yeah, exactly, because it's hard to have that in a world like this, right? Especially in a world like this,
in a world that doesn't reward you for doing such things.
I think my biggest disappointment with like that world, because there is so many amazing, like from what I've heard, of amazing moments of character development in this like gritty, dark world. Like there's a way to write trans characters in a dark, gritty, horrifying, like villains of humanity type story that doesn't traumatize your audience. And I just, if they handled that specific character a little bit better, I think I would really love the story. And so I've been thinking about it.
I honestly love the first one way more than the second one. I think the first one is still, in my opinion, a better story. It's a better game. Well, I don't know if it's a better game, because 2 really took 1 and just like ran with it. With every single kind of mechanic, I am constantly looking in drawers for some reason. Like I am just 90% of that game is looking in drawers and trying to find tape. That is what that game is.
Yeah,
but
it has some weird, quirky gameplay elements.
Yeah. But I think if you're gonna play The Last of Us, part 1 is just, you need to play part. I feel like everybody needs to at least play part 1. At least play part 1.
If part 1, or even just the Left Behind DLC to see if you're even willing to go for the ride, because the Left Behind DLC is actually short, but at the same time, it's the same experience as you would get out of the bigger game, told in a compact story that I think you can digest, which of course is Ellie and her first friend.
So I have Last of Us Part 1 because of the PlayStation collection thing. So I think I might check out the first game. Fee, would you have any interest in trying to return to the story at all?
Absolutely. I would be down to play it again. Like I said, I didn't finish it because I played it probably for like 3-4 hours. And then I'm going to say that it was spoiled to me because I jumped on my stream at the wrong time. That was the only problem. I jumped in, I didn't know what was happening. I said hi, and then I said I was lurking, and then I figured out that it was the end of the game. And I'm like, oh,
Gotcha.
this kind of sucks. But so I
Mhm.
don't want to put the blame on the particular person because they didn't do it maliciously by any means. I didn't just like randomly spoil it because they wanted to do it. So I'd definitely be down because I know, as far as I know, there's different endings. Or am I incorrect on saying that?
No, it's all the same ending.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's all the same ending.
But at the same point, the
it-
second game, if it's the second game that you got spoiled on, the game is told out of order sometimes. So things that happen in the future might
no,
happen.
it was the first one.
It was the first one.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
The thing about these
It's not
games,
mine.
the thing about these games is there's no player agency in these games. Zero player agency.
Oh,
This
yeah.
game, anything that you see in this game is all done by the writers. So you don't have
Oh, yeah.
choices. There are no choices at all. Like when it comes to main story beats, you're just playing through the game to experience the story, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
It makes sense.
All right.
Um,
So it
I
sounds
do-
like Fee and I might check it out, and we'll check in next time to see how that's going. What we're thinking.
I do have
Yeah.
one more thing on
Yeah, for sure.
on like the second game. I played a little bit of Mafia 3 this week, and one of the things you experience in that game is that you play as a character named Lincoln Clay, who is a black man in 1968, right? And if you know the time period 1968, you know where I'm going with this. And it takes place in the American South. And one of the things you realize within that world is that like you're getting called basically everything under the roof. In fact, everybody kind of gets a little bit of it. Whether you're Cuban, whether you're white, whether you're Italian, whether you're black, everybody gets it. And I feel that it depends. Like doing stuff like that depends on the story you're trying to tell. And Last of Us 2, while it does do some pretty shitty things for that, I feel like in a way the developers thought that was the way they needed to tell that story. And in people saying that they believe that, you know, what's said in the game is what their beliefs are, I don't think that's right to say that. I know even Hanger 13, I'm reading like what it says in the beginning of the game. They even say themselves too. Like they say refine racist beliefs, language, and behaviors of some of the characters in their own game abhorrent. But they believe it is vital to include these depictions in order to tell a accurate story. And in a world where there's no rules and there's gonna be shitty people, there's gonna be bad people, it's clear that that's more in the sense of like these people don't care as much as we do, or
I think
they don't care about the rules or anything like that. And I feel like in a way it's vital to they at least Naughty Dog thought it was vital to tell the story that way in that regard.
I think there are ways to do that appropriately and do that well. And like you mentioned, the number one thing is telling your audience what they're getting into. Like you mentioned with that disclaimer, like just being upfront and honest and saying, hey, this abhorrent thing happens in our game. Like we don't support it. We want you to know before you get into it. So your audience knows what to expect and they're not taken aback by something that could be deeply harmful to them while playing through your game. And also just like it's just so important to get the people who have the experiences of your characters involved in the story, because there's so many ways to tell that story in a way that again doesn't hurt your audience. You can make them feel things, you can make them feel deeply, but there's a way to tell those stories without causing them harm. And that's my biggest issue.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. And specifically that character, I wonder how much that actor gave their own input, because they're themselves are portraying that character specifically. So I'm curious if, like, from their perspective, how they put some input, as well as other people that they've talked to. But yeah, fair.
All right. That's enough depressing talk. Let's move on to some lighter topics.